Well, hello neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome to my kitchen table. Today I'm going to do another quick review of an entrance Scotch, an accessible Scotch, one that likely you've seen on shelves. So today I want to look at the Singleton. This is the Dufftown release, 12-year-old single malt. Well, as I said in the intro, this will be another quick review of a accessible, easy to find Scotch. I said, I think this is the third in the series. I don't know how many I'll do, and I'm not going out and buying bottles to do this. My intent of this quick review series is to say, hey, these Scotches you see on shelves, often on sale in any store, are they worth trying out? So this one is one of the Singleton ranges. Diageo owns the Singleton distilleries. I believe there are three: Glenord, Glendullan, and Dufftown. And each of them, I believe, are targeted to specific regions around the world. Are certainly Diageo's big mass market single malts. This one, Dufftown, I thought actually was more for Europe. And I thought the Glendullan I see a lot around here in Canada. And I know that one shows up in the US and I think in Canada too. Well, I mean, I've seen that one for sure. I haven't seen the one targeted for the Asian market, so I can't talk about that one at all. But as I said, this indicates it's matured in European and American oak casks. So I couldn't really dig into the details, but I imagine because American oak is likely your ex-bourbon, right? Because it's coming over from America. And then when it says European oak, it would probably say new oak, and it certainly will get to the tasting. Doesn't taste like new oak. So then I'm thinking it's probably an ex-sherry, right? Something used to hold some sherry. I don't know that it doesn't say sherry. It is darker color. Well, what more can I say? In Canada, if you've got a Dufftown or Dufftown, then it is only 40%. I have seen this reviewed online at 43%, which would, I think, be a different drink. Because of the kind of price range we are, because the kind of low ABV, any of the whiskey geeks out there, appreciate you tuning in for a simple review, but likely this malt is going to disappoint you, as I'm positive it's chill filtered and very likely colored, which means it really doesn't deserve a place on your shelf, except, I got this on a blowout for $30, and so is $30 Canadian a good price for a 12-year-old malt these days? That's a phenomenal price. That normally sits about $45. So it's a little bit more than that, but still quite approachable. Let's talk a bit about the whiskey, since I don't really know enough about the history. It is a Speyside, so that's surrounded by the Highland region, but it's a very unique and one of the 6 regions identified in Scotland. Let's talk about the whiskey. So, nose on this one, very quickly, I get, like a spicy, a little bit of fruit, but the first thing is sort of that spicy, peppery, and then like even the fruit, a little bit citrusy. And if I stay with it a little bit, which is more an effort in trying to get to know the whiskey better than a lovely exercise for an evening, I have to say it's not a fantastic nose. It's not a bad nose. I get actually some, maybe some oakiness or caramel. Well, oakiness and a little bit of caramel or sugar. But it comes back pretty quick to something that seems a little bit spicy, a little pulls my eyes in a little bit, maybe tart even, sour. Not off sour, but tart, like a stronger citrus maybe. Yeah. That's the nose. Sláinte. palate actually is also spicy pretty quickly. This isn't a spice bomb, so I'm doing it a disservice. But a lot of these entrance accessible scotches don't have a lot of layers, and they start to have kind of a single characteristic. And for me, this one is a little thin in the palate. It doesn't coat well. It doesn't hold up well. And it moves pretty quickly back and forth in my mouth between, oh, that's a little spicy or peppery, and oh, that's sweet, oh, that's a little spicy. And it kind of plays back and forth. Second sip, as with anytime you're sipping whiskey, usually a few sips in, you'll start to get more richness and different characters, and this one is no exception. Now it can definitely get a little caramel, a little oak. Fruit doesn't really come alive. It just is this sort of this tart fruitiness, but identifying it is even really tough for me. Finish is a little astringent and tart. So when I think of this whiskey, I have to say it's not a favorite. I don't regret picking it up to have the experience and to think about it, and it's fine as maybe a sip to unwind the day. But it is not a favorite of mine. If I were to give it a star value, in fact, it would probably only reach about a 3-star out of 5 for me. And that's really because it to me, it stays spicy without a meaningfulness in the spice. I can't really identify, a clove or maybe that's a cinnamon, or, oh no, that's a clear baking connection, or like it's just sort of peppery or something on the tongue. And the fruits don't really come alive. They're just kind of present and tend towards sort of a tart crisp, which might be what you like. But for me, it just stays so average, but quite tart and a little bit peppery. And so it doesn't make it out of the barn. For me, maybe 3 stars. As I said in this series, but I don't think I actually intended to pour a sample and compare it like that moment directly to Glenfiddich. I think I was describing that Glenfiddich is just sort of my new reset malt. But maybe for a few anyways, or at least as long as this bottle goes, I can do a quick comparison. So, in other contexts, I wouldn't describe Glenfiddich as a rich nose. But in this context, I enjoy the nose more. It just has a few more layers. And to me, I can get closer to that was an apple. Or, well, no, that was a Bartlett pear. Oh, that was like the layers, the aromas seem to be a bit more identifiable instead of just sort of generic. Give it a quick taste. Not to oversell Glenfiddich 12. This is still an entrance malt and really is just a beginner's kind of scotch, a beginner's malt. But the flavor, there's more layers there to hold on to. Here I get an oakiness that I can identify. I've got the fruit that I can talk about, and even though it also is only 40%. It feels fuller in the mouth. It seems to open up a little bit more than the Glendullan. So I still certainly am recommending the Glenfiddich so far in this sort of entrance range. And I'm sorry if I misled any of you out there that I was good at, like when I talked about core range, I think a few people thought maybe I'd be going, the 12, the 15, the 18, love to get the 21 year kind of in common distilleries. But what I meant to say was I have a number of very simple, approachable, I'll admit I got them on good sales. And I think I should share those thoughts because there's quite a few of us out there, that are going into liquor stores and want to get a good scotch, but really it's tough to find the money to get a truly delicious scotch. So we don't want to get a bad one. And I think that's what I'm trying to do over these next few reviews, because I have a number of open bottles of these, fairly entrance available, but decent scotches. Today we were looking at the Singleton, specifically the Dufftown, one out of the 3. It's their 12-year-old release, and it's not exciting me all that well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great spring, and we'll see you whenever I can get another review up. Take care.